Hey guys, I wanted to walk you guys through week 8 of this quarter's uh, class. So this week we're going to focus on finding a few more sources, and it's going to be pretty straightforward. If you look back at the your extreme sport research page and you look at the directions. So last week you should have found one source from Utah Online Library or JSTOR, and it should have answered one of these questions. So this week, you're going to be focusing on finding 2 sources from a credible website and 1 from a video. So you're finding 3 sources this week. So I know that's a lot more, but finding 2 sources from a credible website looks exactly the exact same, and so you don't really have to learn anything new for that. And finding 1 source from a video is pretty straightforward as well. Okay, so the first thing I want us to pay attention to is this. So when you guys found a source from from Utah Online Library or JSTOR, what you were using an academic database, and in that academic database, you could trust really anything that came up in the academic database, because every single thing that pops up in one of those databases has been peer reviewed, has been researched, and has been submitted by somebody who has the expertise to talk intelligently and reliably about that topic, right? And the idea of this assignment, if you look back to the directions, the idea is to make sure that you can find sources that are credible, academic, and reliable, right? That's the whole objective. And so, using a database, that's really easy to find those sources being academic and reliable and credible, because the people who are submitting it are reliable, and the people who are reviewing it are reliable. But this week, when you're supposed to find 2 sources from a credible website, we run into an issue, right? Finding sources from credible websites is more difficult, because when we search for them on things like Google or Bing or Yahoo, a whole bunch of different sources are coming up. So it makes us need to really sift through all these different websites to find the ones that are credible. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I have put forward for you guys a source evaluation checklist. And in this checklist, you guys can begin to go through each of these different websites and make sure that they're checking all the boxes, so they have all these things. So this is what this PowerPoint is going to do today, okay? So when you look at sources on a website, you want to look for the purpose or motivation behind those sources. The more pure the motivation usually means more pure the source, right? So we can tell a lot about a source's motivation or purpose based on their domain name. So if you guys know, so whenever I type in something like .com or .edu or .org or .gov, that's telling you something about that source. .com means commercial, which means that source is trying to sell you something. Okay, so whenever it's .com, you need to be aware that it's trying to sell you something. That doesn't mean that a source would be not credible because they're trying to sell you something. However, it's not the most pure reason why somebody would have a source, right? So if I'm trying to get information, credible information from somewhere, I have to realize that .com, their motivation behind creating this website is to sell me something. Okay, .edu is education, and so I would prioritize a .edu source more than I would prioritize a .com source. .org is organization. I wouldn't trust .org more than .edu or even more than .com. And then .gov is government, which hopefully we can trust our government, right? So you need to be looking for those things. That's the most easy thing to look for. So again, if you're dealing with a .edu source, that's more likely to be reliable than .com. If you're dealing with a .gov source, that's more likely to be reliable than a .com or .edu. But again, it's all like there's more than just that box, right? That's only one box in terms of finding a source that's credible. Along with purpose, you want to look for authority. And what I mean by that, you want to see if the author that wrote that article or wrote that website page is identifiable. So when you see an author's name on a website, that tells you that that author or that person is willing to put their reputation online, right? They're willing to say, hey, I created this website, look at my credentials. So when you're looking at a source, another checkbox is to see, okay, is the author's name on this website? And if so, that gives that source makes it even more reliable. And not only that, if that author's name plus their background or experience is on that website, that shows that they're even more willing to put their name, put their name up as something credible. And along with finding the author's name, you want to see how current your publication is. If that source is if the more new that source is, the more likely it's credible, right? A source that's 20 years old is outdated. So you want to look and see sources, like you really want to find sources that are created in the last 10 to 5 years. And then what I mean by reliability, so the next check box is basically has to do with how stable that resource seems to be. So when you go somewhere, you want to make sure, okay, is the source or the website, do all the links work, do all the pages work, etc. So look for those things. And then coverage, that just means like, is any information included or omitted? Is the resource completed or under construction? So this kind of has to do with the aesthetic of a website. The better looking a website is, the more you can trust that website. So if a website looks shoddy, it probably means that source is shoddy. People who are reliable and want you to read their information because it's good will have better, more well put together websites. Okay, so let me show you exactly how this looks. So each of you should have a sport. So mine was ultra marathons. So you go to Google, and I can just type in ultra marathons right from the get go, right? I go here, and over 9 million results pop up. So that's a ton. You probably would want to specify it a little bit. Okay, so then you're here, and so the very first thing that comes up is Wikipedia. I want to make this really clear right now, right from the get-go. Wikipedia is not a reliable source. If you use Wikipedia, you will get a 0 on that source. So do not use Wikipedia. Okay. So you want to find sources that are credible, right? So very first couple of sources that come up, .org, organization. I don't trust that. .com. Let's do this.com. I can click on it, but really all it is, it's just running events, right? So that's why you have to be, careful. 9 toughest ultra marathons. I actually got some of my information from here. It's from, so I say I click on this, right? So it's a .com source, but it's from Outside Magazine. So right from the get-go, I know, I already know this website, and I know the journalism that is involved in it, and so I kind of already trust it, right? But if you go back to my checklist, let's go through this together. So purpose, it's .com. It's there to sell me something. I know that doesn't mean, so it's not the most reliable, but it varies, right? And I know Outside Magazine. Okay. Authority, is the author identifiable? So I look here. Okay, Jason Daly. He's willing to put his name on it. It's in 2013, so seven years ago, over 7 years ago. So going back to this idea of reliability, the author is identifiable. His background isn't identifiable. I can actually search Jason Daly and see what comes up. I can look down here and see if anything comes up about Jason Daly. No, doesn't look like anything, but at least his name's there, and it has the year, which goes back to authority as well. Does the author cite his or her sources? I can look and see really quickly. They have links to other different places, and that could be a point of citation that won't let me bring it up. How current? Again, 2013. Last updated. When was this source last updated? I can go and look and see if they have any sort of thing about that. I don't see anything, but again, I'm actually I'm hitting some good points here, right? So going back .com, I can kind of trust it. I saw the author's name, I saw the year it was published, so that's good. And then I go to coverage. Any information included or omitted, is the resource completed or under construction? So I can see I could do all of these these website pages work. Just knowing Outside Magazine, they do. Sorry guys, the announcements came on while I was recording this. So anyways, so go back to my checklist. Doesn't look like the resources under construction. So overall, I would say this is a pretty good source. It's not the greatest source, but it's a pretty good one. You can rely on it, right? Let's also remember 9 toughest. If you go back to the name of the article, 9 toughest marathon courses. You know, kind of opinion, anyways. So in terms of reliability, academic, you know, that's something to think about. Okay, so that's how you would go through the checklist. So when I showed you guys how I researched this, realize that I researched it in a very basic way. And you might want to be more specific than I did. As you can see here, 9 million results is kind of a lot. But if you go to settings and you go to advanced search, you can kind of limit your sources, right? So I can type in .edu here under site or domain, and what that means is that that's only going to bring up .edu sources under ultramarathons, and I can see what comes up. So I click on advanced search. So now only 30,000 results come up, so it's still a lot, but you know, it's less. So right here is the ultramarathon running freshman seminar from Lehigh University. It looks like it's just like a class dialogue, so not really something you were looking for. But you get the idea, right? You can begin to see maybe different ideas or different, you can get more credible is what I'm saying. So here's from Lawrence University about ultramarathon, and it talks about these different faculty runners faculty members who run ultramarathons. I can read it and see if it answers any of my questions from my research, and if it does, I can use this source and I can go through the checklist again. Purpose, well, it's .edu, so it's education. Does it look like it's reliable, like in terms of the aesthetics? Yeah. Is the author's name there? Yeah, it is Awa Badin. She's a student writer for the communications office, so she's studying to be a journalist, right? So that's the idea, is you go through this checklist to see if your sources are reliable, and you can get specific with it. The thing that's harder when it comes to search engine sources is that it's not going to cite the sources for you. You're going to cite them yourself. So I linked right here to MLA Citation Machine, and you would just go there and you would copy the URL, paste it here, and you could cite it. Okay, so that's the way I would make sure my sourcing's cited in MLA. So this week you're going to find 2 sources from a credible website and 1 from a video. You would search video. The checklist for videos is the same as the checklist for credible websites. You're looking to see if there is a creator. Going back through this checklist, is there an author, a creator there? Is it .com.edu? Is it, you know, does it look reliable? Does the video look well made? Like, that's one thing. So going back to this idea, so you can search it the same way as you search Google, but instead you just click on the video tab here, and then you can learn about ultramarathons from, you know, these different places here. So that's kind of the idea. It's pretty simple. If you want to use YouTube, just make sure again that it kind of hits those checklist points that we were talking about. The biggest difference with videos is just making sure that the video looks like it's well made and professionally made. If the video looks like it was homemade, then you probably shouldn't trust it. In fact, you shouldn't. Okay, and you'll cite video sources again using the same way we cited everything else. Use that citation machine that I showed you guys here. Just paste and copy the URL. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. You can comment, you can email me, etc. Okay, have a good week, guys.